Hey guys, welcome back to Sunny Side Up True Crime ASMR. And today I wanted to talk about the two teens and one of them's mother who went missing from Springfield, Missouri, I believe it was. And they're referred to as the Springfield Three. When I first heard about this case, I was kind of like shocked that three people could go missing at the same time and that nobody has any clue what happened to them. But I was also sad because of how the story goes, because the two girls had just graduated high school the day before, and this happened in 1992. So they had just graduated high school and they were going to all the graduation parties that night, and they were supposed to stay at a friend's house. Now, I heard that they decided not to stay at the friend's house because it was too crowded. Like, there were a lot of people staying at the friend's house. And this was like, I think it was like 2 a.m. that they decided to go to one of them's mother's house. So, because they were going to go to a water park the next day, so that might be why they called it a night early. Because to me, 2 a.m. on your graduation night is actually pretty early. I remember when I graduated high school, the theme was party on till dawn. Like, you know, you're not going to be going home at 2 in the morning. So I guess the reasoning for that is the water park the next day. But another thing about that, because when I look at these cases, I like to look at the little details, because the first little detail that's kind of standing out is that at 2 a.m. they already knew there wasn't enough room in the house. Like, is everyone actually ready for bed at 2 a.m. on your high school graduation night? So that's kind of strange to me. That's my first clue that it's a little strange. And the next clue to me that's a little strange is that they made a last minute decision to stay at the mother's house. So of course they go to the mother's house. So she was a single mother and she lived in this house with just her daughter, her teen daughter. So there wasn't a boyfriend or a husband or a man of the house, you know. So she was the only one that lived there. So the girls, evidence shows the girls went to that house. They got ready for bed. They had their clothes ready for the next day. Something happened in the night where they all three disappeared. The next day, multiple phone calls were made and no one answered. So the friends that were supposed to go to the water park with them showed up. They said that the outside porch light was broken and there was glass on the porch. They said that they had a lot of messages on the machine, and that most of them were them, you know, saying they were going to be there to pick them up for the water park, but that there were like creepy prank calls. And while the friends were there, another prank call came in. So they swept up the glass. So the friends left. Then later on, the other teens mother shows up. She comes in the house because the door is unlocked, and she sees all their cars in the driveway. She sees all their purses, the dogs there. So she feels like something has went wrong. So she listened to the messages on the machine. So she heard a creepy message and she deleted it by accident. So that was pretty much the only evidence the police would have had, was the creepy guy on the machine, because they would have had his voice. And everyone feels it's related to the missing women, because he called while the boyfriend and the girl, the two friends for the water park, he called while they were there. So he had to have been watching the house, unless he's just calling all day long. Now, I know this is the 90s, but I do feel they could call the police could have got phone records of maybe who called the house. I don't know. So they haven't been seen since. So it's hard to have a theory about this one, because it's like they vanished into thin air, and that they went willingly, because there wasn't a real sign of a struggle except the light, porch light being broken. A lot of people have said, it's like the stepbrother, or there's also a serial killer that confessed or something. But I don't really look into those anymore, because don't they bring that up for every missing person? When there's a missing person, they always find the crazy, creepy person in the family, and they say that's the person who probably did it. There's always a serial killer who confesses to things he didn't do. So I feel like that's just noise. I don't think it has anything to do with the case. So what I think, one of the things I think could have happened is during the graduation parties, something made the girls feel uncomfortable at the place that there was the party where they left. And I think that's why they left early, to get away from the person at this party that made them feel uncomfortable, and was the reason they didn't sleep over. I think this person knew where they lived. Maybe it's a classmate. They either followed them to the girl's house, or they already knew where they lived, because in high school you know where everybody lives. And he might have been drunk, on drugs, and for whatever reason, like, he kidnapped the whole family, maybe because he couldn't just get the girl he wanted to go with him. So that is a possibility. Or he could have used something at the party to get them to go. Like, he might have said the person whose house it was needed them, and they all went willingly with him. I'm not sure. But I feel like when you look at this case, you look at the things that are odd, and the two things that are odd is that the girls changed their mind and decided to not sleep at that girl's house. That is something odd. And they all went missing. So those are two things that are odd about the night. So I feel they could be related. So maybe think of this theory. The mother goes on a date with some guy. When he comes to pick her up, her daughter answers the door and he thinks she's cute. So he goes on a date with the mother. The mother she's not feeling him, so she kind of drifts away from him. But he becomes obsessed, like, with her daughter. So he starts calling the house. Maybe he does prank calls to the house in the weeks leading up to this happening. Maybe it didn't start the day of the disappearance. So the mom has an idea of who this guy is. It's probably the guy she went on a date with. So the daughter is worried about the mother. The daughter is going to the graduation party and thinking, this is the first night I'm not with my mother. She's been getting these creepy calls for weeks. I don't feel right, like, staying at someone else's house. I want to stay with my mom. And her friend is like, sure, that's good. And then maybe the mom even said, no, honey, you please just stay with your friends. I want you to have a good night. And they were like, no, I want to stay at your house. So that's why they made the last minute decision to stay with the mom, is they were worried about her because of these phone calls. And maybe even when they called, she was like, he's calling again. I stayed on the phone with my friend, because she was on the phone. The mother was on the phone with her friend for several hours. She was trying to make the line busy. And then, he starts calling again. And he is the one who kidnaps them all. And it has to be by gunpoint, I think, because how can you get 3 women to just go with you? But I don't understand how he got in the house, which leads me to it being someone they know. But, like, if she went on a date with this guy and she didn't like him, why would she let him in her house? Or someone forgot to lock the front door. He just walks in with his gun. And if somebody comes at you with a gun and says, get in my car, like I've heard victims say over and over again, like, you kind of freeze and you just are numb and you just, like, do what they say because you don't know what to do, because you can't think straight. Now, the glass, I feel it could be, because they said the mother's window, the blinds were open where she'd been looking out. So maybe he comes to the house and breaks the glass. They're, like, looking out, trying to figure out what that is. Maybe they go out to see who broke the glass, and then he takes them at gunpoint. But that's where it all gets a little weird to me, because would he be driving? And all these ladies are just sitting there in the car when they could easily overpower him together, or one of them could hop out. So I don't know, because there was a witness that said they saw one of the girls driving a car, so maybe he had one of the girls drive. But I know I'm all over the place with this case, but it's very mysterious. It's like a true mystery. Like a lot of cases, you think, oh, the father-in-law did it, oh, the sister did it, the brother did it, the neighbor did it. And this is a case where I'm like, I don't know who did it. It's not obvious. That's why it's such a mystery. And how sad to think too that these women could still be alive. I mean, it's not sad. It's happy to think they're still alive, but also sad because they're probably being held captive. Like, what if this guy has been holding them captive in his basement for all these years? Or worse yet, like, what if he had them tied up and then he goes and dies or something, and they're down there and nobody knew they were down there? Well, actually, they probably would have been found by now, because a homeowner would have checked on their home and sold it or whatever. And then, you know, how can he hide? Like, if he killed them, how is it that he hid 3 bodies and nobody ever found their bones? Like, what in the world? So, I know I didn't have a lot of the details of the case because I don't have, like, Wikipedia open. I'm just going by what I remember about this case and thought I would share it with you guys on what I thought. So, thanks for watching, and subscribe if you're new.